Before we get started, please subscribe to this channel. You also can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And if you're looking to become a member of the DW Pod, you can look for Dr. Williams Podcast on Patreon, where you will find 3 different tiers of membership benefits. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one, you can go to my website, www.drwilliamspodcast.com, or you can check out www.nrtrc.org to find a telehealth provider. Look in Sequim, Washington, because that's where I'm located, and you can set up a therapy session with me there. Okay, let's get into this conversation. Hey guys, I'm here today with Ishil, and you may be familiar with that name if you have listened to my episode about my soul purpose alignment session. Well, Ishil just did another reading for me, and that's for a new podcast that I'm putting together that's coming on down the way. But I also wanted to have her here on the podcast to share with you guys, because since we met and she did this for me, we've become really good friends, and I really want to share her with all of you. So Ishil, thanks for being on the show today. Can you kind of introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, first of all, having me on your show
My
again.
pleasure.
I love it. I might get used to this and want to be on there all the time.
You may.
Yeah. I like it. My name is Ishil, and I was born in Istanbul, Turkey, and many moons ago, and just sort of following my sort of training, I guess, in dance, which was, my main focus when I was younger. But then as I found out, there was definitely a healer in there somewhere, and just trying to, come out and be of service. So I just, I'm offering the work that I do, which is called Soul Purpose Alignment, as some of your listeners already probably know. And I do Reiki attunements, and just kind of trying to do my part in, helping shift the consciousness, human consciousness, and the consciousness on earth, as we are doing this big jump in this, new frequencies that are coming in, taking us into that new higher consciousness level. So.
And you do that individual by individual, which also, offers to the collective, because I look at you as a spiritual guide. And when you're doing these soul purpose alignment sessions, you're tuning into each individual's higher self and helping them to understand more about their own spiritual path and their journey in this lifetime.
Yes, exactly.
And in doing that, I believe you're helping with the spiritual awakening that's happening as a collective.
Yeah. Thank you. I would like to think so. And I do have that very strong sense of wanting to help and be of service, and always had, since I was very young. And as Ram Dass says, we're all walking each other home. So one person at a time. And, some of us, even just by simply being who we are and emitting a certain frequency of kindness, or being loving and forgiving and compassion. So my part in that, I feel, it's kind of like that saying, you teach someone how to fish as opposed to giving them fish, so it's like I'm taking huge pleasure in knowing that if I can just contribute a little bit even to each person by reminding them of who they are, the divine spirit here in human form, and, just sort of activating that awareness and knowingness so that they can heal themselves, and, and they can perhaps even discover the healer within as they start to become online, and that activation takes place. So that's my thing. That's what I love doing.
How did you discover this purpose about yourself? Did you have your own reading? Is this something you came to on your own? Where did that enlightenment come from?
If you go back all the way back to like when I was 5 years old, at the time, like National Geographic. So I grew up in Turkey, but we did get like National Geographic, and I'd look at the pictures, and at the time, this like, I mean, hunger thing happening in Africa, and the little kids, with their swollen bellies. And so as a 5-year-old, I remember that moment. Actually, even I turned to my mom as we were looking at those pictures together, and I said, Mom, when I grow up, I'm gonna be a doctor, like a medicine person, and I want to go and help people. Like I want to help them, and and others who need help. So it's quite profound. Like when I think about it, as souls, I mean, we are always aware of our inklings and what we are here to do. Sometimes we may forget and need a little help to remember, right? The purpose thing, but I think it's innately in us. So that was sort of the first remembrance of that need to be of service. And then just like I said, along the way, having healing sessions myself, but often it was me following and finding out that there's this sort of intuitive etheric realm that's out there, and just discovering of it more and more with different teachers and medicine people that came my way, and then just putting pieces together and creating this like a soup, I call it. It's called Soul Purpose Alignment, which has a little bit of everything in it, through the life experiences, all the teachings, like Native American, South American, shamanic, medicine teachings, and intuition and dowsing. And so it's just combination of many things,
Did you have anybody in your family that was intuitive or supportive of you in that way?
Almost all of them. So I was really lucky, really lucky. I grew up reading books about, healing and natural healing and channeling and reincarnation. I mean, and I was really interested in that. And every time I'd go to the library of my aunts or, my mom, definitely, I mean, they are also intuitive, but I used to have like very prophetic kind of dreams, that I would talk about as a kid, like just seeing something happening and then mentioning it to my mom. And then a few days later, it's like, it happens kind of thing. So, but it was always seen as a gift and supported as opposed to like being shut down. So I'm so grateful. Like I chose a really good family, in that sense that really helped me nurture those abilities that thankfully I didn't forget and put aside like all the way. And then it took a while to kind of connect back to those aspects of myself. And, with the help of all the healers and medicine people I worked with and studied with, and then just sort of, going from there,
Do your mom or your aunts, did they do this kind of work also?
So my aunts actually, my aunt, one of my aunts, my mom's two sisters, one of them is my English teacher, first English teacher. Yeah. Growing up, like, I would, be dying to like go out there and, play with my friends. And she'd be like, no, we're just going to study English together. And, so at the time I remember rolling my eyes and going, oh my gosh, like I so want to be out there. But I'm so grateful to her because it was her basically saying, you need to learn another language. And of course, having chosen dance like professionally as a ballet dancer, it was mandatory that you had to learn, a foreign language other than Turkish, of course. So it's like
that's so interesting to me. Like,
like it was
it's an elective.
But this is because it's like art, right? And you are going to represent your country, hopefully, if you're good enough, so that you need to learn. I mean, even piano was mandatory. Like we had to learn how to play piano.
Right.
And then we had to learn either English, French, or German. So you could choose. And I was always kind of more, I don't know, I felt that way, but also because my aunt, I think, was an English teacher, you know. So she is my first, like, my English teacher, and my other aunt is my Reiki teacher. So
Oh,
she,
wow.
you know, so it was like they play these amazing roles in my life, that kind of like, you know, brought me to where I am. And my mom is the combination of two. So it's like, just, yeah, it's been definitely, I've been in good hands in that way, you
Do your
know.
aunts live in Turkey as well?
They do. They all live in Turkey. I'm the only one out here to represent.
So,
Just,
wow, such a
yeah.
strong familial kind of connection with
Yes.
you and your purpose, and you're so far away from them.
Yes, I know. I
How does that
know.
work in your life?
You know, I mean, I think we all have an understanding of, I mean, I don't think I know the soul's journey, right? It's like, it goes beyond countries and beyond places, and we're all aware of that. But also I had the sense, like, since I was very little, yes, of course, wherever I am, there I am, and I can help people, animals, you know, and be of service. But there was something that kept calling me out here, like to be here out, you know, kind of this expansion. But also, I used to have these dreams where, like, these very prophetic dreams, very powerful medicine dreams, where this one particular Native American elder would show up and teach me how to do things, you know, in the dreams, like just sort of saying, this is the sacred land, and this is how we do things, and this is how we, it was amazing. And at the time, you know, it's like you kind of almost like watching a movie. But then there came a time where I was like interpreting all this, and I thought, you know, like something is calling me, and there are no, I mean, the culturally Turkish people, our ancestors, go back to those nomads that are believed to be the ones that crossed the Bering crossing and came over here to the Americas. So like the first people, First Nations. So perhaps that was the kind of that connection that I felt, but also there was this need in me to come and discover that very culture in its home currently today in North America. And it was like, you know, I have to go there. But life also helped kind of lead the way in that way. So after my dance training in London, and performing, you know, with different companies, like I've done all of that. So there is a performer side of me that feels like, when I think about it now, it feels like it was another lifetime almost. You know, it was this like full on expression of like dance and arts and you name it. But then after a while, I started to notice this desire for healing coming up more and more, and that to be able to exist as a performer in the realm of very strong kind of ecosystem versus trying to stay in this, like, you know, and grow in the healer capacity, it almost like started to kind of clash, as in not so much like my own ego, because I never really had that. And that's probably why, you know, I may have been able to maybe go further, like in my career, if I had that. But I just was kind of like, okay, that's good. Everyone is doing their thing. Like, I'm more interested in this. So there came a time I let go of the performer, and with all the ambitious ego realm, and I jumped into fully to become the, you know, the healer in healing arts. So that's sort of
So what
I
was it
ended up.
exactly about America that brought you here?
So, and that's what I mean. It's like when there is a will, I guess there's always a way type of thing on a soul level. So what happened was, yes, deep down, so I'm having these dreams and I'm going, okay, something's calling me there. But then, you know, you kind of put them aside and you're doing your thing and you're training, performing. So then in London, I met a guy who ended up being my husband and who was from Canada. So it was with him I came out to Canada first, and so I lived in Canada for uh over 20 years, which in that time frame, things didn't work out. So we decided to go separate ways. And, I love being in Canada and Vancouver, mountains and beautiful. And of course, meeting so many of the teachers that I studied with, especially First Nations, people, and also Native Americans down south this way. And then I met my husband now, and who is an American. So then I came down here.
Well, I have a question about the work you do, because I know you mentioned animals and you work with adults. And I know because of previous conversations we've had that you can even tune into infants.
Yes.
You know this is energy based. Can you tune into anything?
Great question. So yeah, animals, babies, toddlers, even like, seniors that have dementia, right? Like they can't really articulate or express themselves, but energetically what's going on. Yep. I've done all those things. Everything that is energy based, when you do connect. And so this goes back to the training too, with one of the medicine women I trained with when I was in Canada, taught me how to kind of create the intention and then basically connect and do an automatic sort of writing, like to see what comes through.
Okay.
But of course, I mean, it's really important in your intention as you set it up that you're not connecting to just anything out there, right? Because that would be where things can get really confusing. And I mean, there are a lot of good spirits out there, but also, there's some mischief ones, and they might kind of lead you in the wrong way in terms of giving you the answers that you're looking for. So it's really important to create that, that connection as you do that. So yeah, she was the one to kind of open that door for me to help understand, wow, like I can do this if I create that intent. And it's like this direct connection, and I really make that intent, it will likely bring through some divine information. And I think that was sort of the beginning of my ability to understand like energy and how we can connect, and then you can pull the information, through that.
And you hear that auditorily, like actual words.
It's more knowingness. It's actually not so much hearing, and sometimes in my mind's eye seeing and having a sense of what that is as it comes through, or as I'm sitting here trying to figure out and connect the dots, but it's that deep sort of very strong sense of intuition, I guess, right? That I've had since I was very young. And people would try to find out, like, how do you know? And it's so hard, it's like, I just know. And that's where it gets challenging, trying to describe energy or how it works. But yeah, anything that is energy, you can connect to, and, for the highest good of all involved, you could offer, clearing and healing.
Have you been considering one-on-one sessions with me? Well, if you have, I wanted to let you know that there's actually 2 ways to go about doing that. You can go the therapy route, or you can go the coaching route. I am a licensed mental health counselor here in the state of Washington, and I'm actually registered as a telehealth provider. So this is something that might even be covered with your insurance company. And what you can do is you can go to the Northwest Regional Telehealth Resource Center, or NRTRC for short, and you can find me there in Sequim, Washington, Sequim. So if you're in Washington and you're looking to have therapy with a mental health counselor, you can work with me. And we can do that virtually. That's what telehealth is. It allows us to meet without having to be in person. So what you do is you go to www.nrtrc.org and search for behavioral health in Sequim, Washington. And you'll find Dr. Williams, LLC is there. And that's how you schedule with me for therapy sessions. If you're wanting coaching sessions, you just go to my website, www.drwilliamspodcast.com. Right on the home page, there's a button there that says Work with Dr. Williams, and it'll take you to my scheduling calendar where you can set up a free 15-minute consult so that we can talk about it and see if it feels like it would be a good fit for you. Even if you've done traditional therapy in the past or coaching sessions with someone else and you felt like it wasn't a good fit, I get that. But I encourage you to give me a chance because I do things a little bit differently, and I might be the fit that you've been looking for. So there's really nothing to lose. Set up the consult. We'll just have a chat and see how you feel about it. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
How I came to understand actually that I could work with babies, because it was before only just the adults, like whoever comes to do work, like, okay, let's sit down and do this. But one time a friend of mine and a client of mine who was in my space had to bring her little baby with her because, she just had, actually, he was like maybe several months old, but as we were working, all of a sudden this other sort of message from another person came in and saying, I really don't like it when, my dad speaks to me this way. And I was kind of startled because I didn't know where that's coming from or who it is. And then the light bulb went on, and it was, this little guy in the space. So I just confirmed it. And then I had to bring it to the attention of my friend. And I said, this is kind of weird, but this is what I'm getting. Like, is this legit? Is this something that's happening for him to almost like complaining about it or just saying, this has to stop. And she couldn't believe it. She started to laugh and she said, oh my gosh, like it's actually so true. And I also, tell my husband like not to do that, but this little guy was truly, kind of offended by that sort of behavior. So I said, well, tell your husband, stop that stuff,
The baby says, I don't like that.
The baby's fed up and doesn't want that, And so ever since then, actually, it's incredible. I mean, I've been working with those kids now. They're like in their 20s, and super conscious, like aware human beings, and but yeah, that connection and my sort of aha moment began in that moment when I realized, wow, like this is truly energetic thing because I just received this. So in addition to all that, what happens is sometimes people who passed on will also come into the session. So
that's like mediumship.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's usually by request. Like they don't just kind of jump on and say, hey, give this message to my, wife or daughter or something. But sometimes it can happen and it can be kind of surprising, but often there's got to be an intention again behind it to say, is it okay? Can I commune with or, get messages from so and so who passed on? And it's almost like, there has to be, like our guides, they never jump on and interfere unless we ask, right? We have to ask. We have
yes,
to.
They don't assert.
Exactly. So it's kind of the same thing, I think, if someone has that desire and if it works out that the connection is, good to go, sometimes there will be those sessions where it's only about that allowing that connection to happen and then being the messenger. So then it's like bringing through the information and then them receiving it and asking questions and that sort of thing, which
Wow.
provides a lot of comfort
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people, because, it kind of gives them this sense of, okay, like I can connect this way, and I am always
Yes.
connected, and, which we know, of course, but
doing it is different. You're
yes.
right. We do know that. And,
Yeah.
but what I hear you saying is setting your intention is how you do that, how you connect
Mm-hmm.
with that energy. So that's something anybody can do.
I mean, in terms of probably feeling the energy, yes, I do believe that. I mean, it's just, I think, we're that powerful. We can definitely do that. And I believe every person is born with that ability. We just forget. And then all our lives we're trying to remember, right?
Mm.
The gift that we have. And we're lucky if we can do it, in this sort of timeline that's, that we have. But, in terms of, however, to be able to bring through messages. So it could just be a feeling, right? Or a sense
Or a knowing
of what's being said, or knowingness. But because I'm able to douse, I have like full on sentences and messages and detailed stories that are being conveyed and brought through, so I do that.
That's what dowsing is.
Dowsing, yes, with using a pendulum.
Okay.
Actually, I have it here. I can show you. So that's the pendulum.
Okay.
And so I have like this big file. Actually, you've seen it, maybe, folder with all these files, which I've kind of put together over years, all kinds of things in there that can be used to contribute to someone's healing if they choose that from the menu, right? Okay, I need this and I need that. And so, but also for messages, I do have a chart that is like basically alphabet, so it's like, and it's so fast when it happens. And that's when I feel also my knowingness and ability to see and hear all merge together as that's happening, that sometimes I don't even have to complete the sentence on the chart. It's like I already know what.
So this is a tool that you've
said.
created over time and working to tune in and communicate, and now you're just getting to the point where it happens so quickly, it just kind of is more like a download.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
I've been feeling lately like my intuition has been becoming stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, I called my mom the other night and she was like, just a minute ago, I was thinking nobody's been calling me. And then I called.
Yeah.
And it's actually happened about 3 times in the past couple weeks where there's just been this information and I follow the lead. It happened with you when I sent you the picture and you were like, how'd you know? And I was like, oh, in tune.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there's just, I've been wanting that. I've been wanting to tune in more. So I set that intention and now I'm starting to see it happening.
Yes. And, also practice makes perfect. So the more you try it and go for it without allowing doubt to creep in, you just kind of go out on a limb each time. You're like, okay, I'm going to choose to trust. And, instead of kind of listening like, oh, it's probably not true, this or that, take that risk, and go for it. And the worst case scenario, someone might think, maybe you're kind of out there or whatever, but so what? It's that's how you kind of get better at it, because you're each time as you do it and it keeps getting confirmed that you are spot on, it's like then that sense of knowingness is even more so anchored, in you. It's like,
it's like nurturing any kind of relationship.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
This is the one you're having with your inner being or your higher self.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
In this work that you're doing, I know you get a lot of benefit out of working with each individual person. But overall, what do you feel like is the big contribution? What is the umbrella kind of purpose to the work that you're doing?
I feel like changing the current consciousness, which may have limitations, right? As we did the work with you before, removing the blocks and those old patterns that are kind of hindering your growth process or your soul evolution. So it's sort of like, you know, for the higher consciousness to come in, there's this sort of like the visual that I hold. If it's a plane that is, or a ship that is like trying to land, right, as the higher consciousness, it needs those lights on the runway, like to know where it needs to land. And I think if I could help each person get lit up one person at a time, then the runway, like, becomes more and more visible for that higher consciousness to know where it needs to land and be and shift the earth. So that's kind of like my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I love that visual.
Yeah.
Plus, I really like analogy using light, because that's what you are. You're a light worker and you're spreading light.
Yes. And I really do believe that we all have that, potential ability, should we choose to focus on it, and again, intent to merge with it or activate it, and get beyond the doubts or all those things that stand, between that confidence and knowingness. Like I like doing it this way because it just feels like there's that real special connection, and I love it. I love that space that's created that is really sacred. Also, there's potential there for each person to know themselves, but also each other better, where it can lead to deeper connections, right?
Yes.
So, I found that most of my clients, we have that sort of friendship thing that's going on too. That's the undercurrent, which, is lovely. I mean, then it really feels truly like family, like we're doing this as a soul family, the family of light, and we're all together and we're all walking each other home and doing what we can, on this earth plane to maybe do it in that pay it forward way, right? So like they get inspired here, they get lit up here, and then they might want to do that for someone else. And, so that's how the army grows, so
to speak. Yes.
So to speak,
the good army.
Good army. Yeah. So light workers, I do believe, especially those of us, and everyone who's here at this moment in time on planet Earth, definitely, if we were to think about how the soul is ever so wise and knowing, we all came here for this specific timeline to assist this amazing shift that's happening, in consciousness, and animals included. I mean, our pets, the plants and the trees, and the whole meal deal.
Do you teach what you do? Like if somebody wanted to learn?
But I focus more on hands-on healing, which is Reiki, the one that I learned thanks to my aunt. And then I was able to initiate then my mom and all my family members, my dad, my brother, they all have Reiki. And they can, like, if they choose to, they could have the intention to heal themselves or others, that sort of thing. But so that's the thing that I teach whenever someone or a group of people that are interested in getting in touch with the healer within, I offer classes, sometimes one-on-one, sometimes as a group, do different levels of Reiki with them.
This is some heavy stuff that you're working with for people. I was kind of relating because when I was in that therapist role, I took on a lot of the negativity from my clients, and I didn't know how to clear it. And I got really sick. And so I was wondering, with this information that you're, bringing forth, although because you're connecting with your higher self, that's probably replenishing for you.
It is. And also, you know, my work like is set up a certain way that there are certain protocols that you follow after each session so that you're not taking stuff back home with you, including, clearing yourself, clearing the space, clearing all the rocks that might be around you, the crystals, so it's just like every time it's a clean, sort of a deal. However, I mean, you can still, some things still can bypass and come in attached to you, and this is actually something that I'd love to talk about. So when you are a healer, one of the things that, you learn quickly is that if you kind of get in the way of that divine flow, which has its own intelligence and it knows where to go and how to heal, right? If you let it and allow yourself to have that kind of confidence, but if you get in there and you're trying to kind of direct because you're so attached to the outcome, like you really want to help your aunt and you really want to help your child, that's when things get a little bit murky, because you are being so empathic, to the level where like you feel what they're feeling and you're going through exactly what they're going through, versus having compassion for what they're going through and holding space for them and with them, which is more empowering for them than you also in there, like
Yes.
I learned this, and I actually had a wonderful teacher who reminded me of that when I went to him all depleted and like, oh, I think I need a clearing. He said, you need to know and remember the difference between empathy and compassion. Because, empathy can be a slippery slope. Like you kind of lose yourself in the process and you have to call yourself back. But it doesn't mean you're heartless. You just anchor, the energies and fill that space with compassion so that the person can do what they need to do with you kind of guiding and facilitating, the whole thing. So
That's
I like
wonderful.
that.
That's
it's really
beautiful.
empowering,
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, there's no denying that you are contributing positivity to each person that you work with and the world as a whole. I have felt it. Your energy is wonderful. I love being in your presence. And I'm sure that everyone that's worked with you feels the same way. And if anyone here listening to the podcast wants to work with you, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah. The best way would be to visit my website, which is my name, www.ishil.com. So ISHIL, ishil.com. And so there's like a contact section there, so they can send me an email. And also on Instagram, I just recently started a page, to inspire and to keep in touch, with my tribe and people who wants to kind of be in touch and be reminded of their divinity. It's soul purpose alignment, just one word, soul purpose alignment. And I also have a page on Facebook, also soul purpose alignment. So those would be my kind of contact information, I guess. And then I will, be happy to work with whomever wants to come forward and do that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing yourself with my audience. You're such a pleasure. And I'm just so grateful to you. And I encourage you guys to have a session with Ishil. It was life-changing for me. And she really offers a lot of positivity and spiritual growth for you. So I encourage that.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you so much. I love being here with you. And thank you for having me on your show that is inspiring and educating and just always, always so lovely. Thank you.
If you like being able to watch the podcast, make sure to let me know by subscribing to this channel.